Oversight is that executive session at the time of the meeting hadn't started yet, so we all thought.
Hi, this is, welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting. I got signaled quickly. Selectmen's Meeting, and today is April 9th, 2019. Roll call, please.
Wayne Miller present.
Sue Licio is present. The meeting is then called to order. Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to announce that this meeting is being tape recorded. Not quite sure if we're going live or not yet, but it's at least being taped. Chairman's additions or deletions. I had one, and I don't see him here. I think that the deputy chief was going to come and give us an update on what's been going on.
Yep.
So if you don't mind, we'll just
Yeah, that's fine.
pencil them in when the time comes, okay? And I think is that all we had?
Yep.
Yeah, just stuff for next time. Excuse me one sec. Okay. 3-1, appoint Ava Penaconi.
We got public comment.
Oh, yeah, public comment. Anybody have public comments? Other than it's snowing? Okay.
Can we moan about it?
It's not sticking. It'll be fine.
It's unnatural.
Deputy Chief is here.
Well,
Hi, it's
good to see you.
nasty out there, huh?
Yeah, it's good. It's not sticking, like you said.
We're ready for you if you're ready.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Did they call for this? The snow?
No,
I didn't hear.
Chief Bailey's out of town.
Yes, he is.
You're in charge, so you get the pleasure of coming to visit us.
Sure.
We thought that it might be a good idea to come, given some of the things going on at the school of late, and especially all of the talk back and forth on social media or whatever. Fill us in on really what's happened.
Sure. Well, I think it's safe to say that the whole end of your introduction about the social media is really what the story is. It seems that rumor mill has kind of gotten out of control and has led to a lot of misunderstanding and confusion and fear in the district, certainly. It all started, we got well, first of all, we have a very limited role in these types of incidents, as you can probably imagine. Our first concern is the security of the school and making sure that we assess properly whether or not there was any sort of security threat. Once we do that and move on to that, the next thing we determine is whether or not a crime has been committed and whether or not it is a criminal justice issue and an issue that would go to the courts or something that we would be involved in. And then once we determine that it's not, at that point we kind of divert that to the proper social service that may be available. And certainly in a school setting, that social service is through the school, either through guidance or through their student code of conduct or something along them lines. And that is precisely what this incident turned out to be. We were made aware of some threats that were made amongst a small group of students. That matter was the individual, meaning a threat to a certain person, and then also to a group of people. That was brought to our attention and thoroughly investigated by the school resource officer, who did a very good job of thoroughly looking through that. It was determined that it was made to one particular student and then in generalities to a number of them. Once we determined that there was not a credible threat, and the way that we do that is a bit of a process where the risk assessment, where you look at the history of a student, the background, his intent, whether or not they have an access to firearms or access to the means to which they said that they were going to commit whatever act, and then from that point on determine whether or not it's viable. In this instance, it was deemed not to be credible, meaning there was no means, there was no intent, those types of things. Any of the students that were directly named or impacted were identified, and they were spoken to along with their parents. The SRO, once the rumor mill started, And we got some more information that there was other things involved and other students involved and lists and all this other stuff. The SRO spent the majority of the week chasing that stuff down and getting with the students that had made mention of stuff like that. And every time he did, it was always, they heard third hand. It was something that was said when the kid was a freshman, all these different types of things. So he really kind of chased the unicorn for most of the week. Suffice to say, the incident is what we thought it was at the beginning. And that was what we determined to be non-credible. Share that information, obviously, with the school district. Here on out, I think, in this instance, I think quick communication would have been key and could have, certainly prevented rumors. I don't recall when the school district made their first announcement and how close to the incident it took place. But suffice to say, when we do an after-action report or an after-action meeting with the superintendent, I will avail our department to them to help them with any sort of crisis communication or something along them lines. It's been my experience that putting a team together at the beginning of an incident where you actually strategize that piece of it, because rumor mills can be, it's perception. It's all about perception. A lot of times it's a lot more about perception than it is about crime, to be very honest. And I think that if you have that conversation early, sometimes you can stem this rumor from growing and building. And we are committed to at least opening those lines of communication. The school district has involved us in that communication and did ask us what we did consult with each other about what to release and what not to release. But suffice to say, I think a timely release would be helpful. And I think moving forward, we'll certainly look at that timeline and determine whether or not there's anything we could do to assist them. But again, we're not their spokespeople. And I certainly would not go to putting out a communication on an island. This would be a joint effort, even if there were criminal actions as a result. I do think it's important to make any statements in concert with the school rather than on our own. Could cause problems where there otherwise wouldn't be.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's another conversation we should have with Brad when we do meet with him to go over that, how to handle that, and if there's a team that we can put together for communication, then I think it's something we should at least explore.
Or certainly a process so that when you're in the midst of going through
Yeah.
something like that, you have a clear, first you do this is who you talk to, release this information, in terms of who writes it. Is it, like somebody like council, not our council, maybe theirs, but, just to make sure that things are documented so that, this isn't a surprise to anybody, I'm sure, that knows me. I don't give you 2 plug nickels for Facebook, tell you the truth, okay? I think it's nothing more than, a gossip place. And it concerns me that there are children posting things about this happened or that happened. So, and that their parents, at least in some situations, it seems, aren't even sitting and talking to them about it, and they may be posting as well. If I have a problem, I call the school. I ask directly what's going on. I don't rely on, the rumor mill or what people are saying out there. They don't necessarily know.
Yeah. We have to go by on the facts, and to Jay's point, I think we need to have some sort of sit down about how the communication is handled.
So it starts, obviously you're going to be sitting down with them to reassess what happened, what worked, what didn't work, as well as we want it to, and then go from there.
Right, I definitely recommend an after-action report with the superintendent and the principal as well. And again, to your point, I think if you get that conversation or have that conversation with your child, it's always good to go to the source. Call the superintendent's office, call the police department, and we can, kind of at least give them what information is readily and publicly available. That's important. To your point about a process, the school district is trained up via incident command, where when you have an incident of this type, certainly everybody has their role, and one of those roles is public outreach. It is a significant part of any sort of response to any sort of incident. I think given the climate and given the Facebook climate that you referred to, I think we need to know that here it may be a little bit more important. and it may need a little more
Earlier,
emphasis
too.
than what it has been given in the past. And I can only control what we can do. I did have a conversation with our school resource officer that we need to get together and make our own internal assessment about where we think this would go, and then help the school and at least inform them to what we think might happen. But again, we're not their spokespeople. We do not,
No,
we're not in charge of that
I know what you're
apparatus,
saying.
but we're here to help in any way we can with that.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you for
You're very
explaining
welcome.
that. I
Sure.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
3.1, appoint Ava Hanakami? Do you know how that's pronounced? Okay. I should.
I'll take a stab.
Okay, as Recreation Counselor, could I get a motion?
I move the board appoint Eva Panacion as Recreation Counselor contingent upon the passing of a query check and medical exam effective April 9th, 2019, and I apologize if I mispronounced the name improperly.
And so do I. I'll second that. I do have a question. Are these the summer positions?
This one doesn't specify that it's summer, so this could be one that's going to stay on for the Rec Kids program through the year as well.
Do
The
these
summer ones
people
would say
go on
summer.
probation as well?
They do, unless they're rehires, if they've already done their probationary period. So this one is coming on as a new, so it would be appropriate to have a,
And that's a 12-month, just like
standard
everybody
12-month,
else,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Appoint Claire Devine as a registrar for the term effective April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2022.
Move the board appoint Claire Devine as registrar for a term of April 1st, 2019 to March 31st, 2022.
I'll second that. I just have one question. Did a registrar leave? Or,
I do not know.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4.1, discussion regarding the use of cell phones during Board of Selectmen meetings. I put this on here, and I'd like to take the discretion, at the chair's discretion, to say, I don't mind if you have your phones out. Certainly, we always check them when we're doing schedules and stuff, but I don't mind if you have the phones out in case, heaven forbid, something happens. We all have families, and that's important to be able to stay in touch with our families or them with us. And that's fine, but please, let's talk to each other, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know, and it's easy to pick up the phone and say, gee, I want to look something up. Just tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean,
That's all, okay?
It's like I did the other day with the HMA in the,
Right,
Okay, me.
right. Hold on, I'll look it up, okay? But that way, I mean, to me, it's clearer to everybody that's watching that there isn't a separate conversation going on. It really is work. It's just that with the cell phones, we've learned how to cut corners, and we do it very automatically, but we don't always think of how that's perceived. So I just want us to think about that, okay? That was that one. 4.1, discussion of proposed meeting with water commissioners regarding going forward after the court decision, purpose, schedule a joint meeting, handling of items in the interim prior to that discussion. I have to say I was really excited when, and glad that the court case finally got settled, because that, to me, means we can move forward. I don't like feeling like I'm confined or I'm in limbo and things aren't moving, okay? So I was really excited about that, and as a matter of fact, I talked to Lance, the current chair, a few days ago, and I suggested this. He wasn't able to make it, or he's out of town. Somebody else couldn't make it. So, because I had hoped we could all get together and talk tonight. And it's really because when you read the text of the court summary, there are some things in there that are, I think they could be defined better. They could be explained better. You know, like, what does administration mean? Administration means management. Well, what do we mean by management? You know, so how do you take those kinds of things and roles and responsibilities of who versus, you know, one versus another board, and say, what does this really mean in concrete terms and in everyday examples, so that we're all understanding everything in common? And we talked about it, and that sounded like, yeah, that was a possibility. Lance called and left me a message today. When I got home this afternoon, I got the message. Must be kind of weighing on him too, because he said he would like to get together, talked about a couple of things that, you know, hopefully we'd all be able to get together. But in the message, he said that they are going to appeal the decision. And I almost cried. Just because, and I had said to him in the previous conversation, I hope you realize why I haven't talked to you in all of this time. And he said, no, I don't know. And I said, well, it's because we've had a court case pending. And if I'm a selectman, I can't talk about anything having to do with a lawsuit against the town, because the selectmen are considered to be the town. And I take the view of protection of the town side. And in the, let's see, 6 and 2, wow, 8 years having served on the board, that's what we've always been told by town council. That was another thing Lance said today in his message, that, you know, he didn't think that that was necessarily the case, and that, you know, we could continue to negotiate. And that word isn't really appropriate from the perspective, from my perspective. It's not a negotiation, it's a discussion, and it's a communication. And it's to make sure that we all understand in common how we're going to work and play together. And it's communication only. It's not a give and take. It's not anything different than, to me, what the judge put in the judgment, okay? So I'm disappointed, because now if they're going back to appeal it, then it kind of almost shuts off stuff again. I'm hoping that we can find a way. Maybe Adam can help us.
That's what I was just
In
going to
terms
suggest.
of
I'd like to, even if he has to facilitate the meeting, so what we can say and what we can't say to stop it, but
You can both meet, boards can meet with attorneys.
I firmly believe that we need to move forward with this and establish that line of communication again, court case or not, because we are operating under the finding of that court case.
I think, however, without having it finalized, if they're not willing to accept the judgment that came down, and it's their right to do so, you know, it's their right to appeal, but if they're basically not willing to accept the judgment that's come down already, then I'm not sure how fruitful our discussion would be. Because fundamentally, there's still a difference of opinion.
There is, and I think, lawsuit appeal aside, I think you know, come on, both boards are sets of adults. We should be able to sit down and have a communication and set some basic ground rules moving forward. Are they going to be set in stone, or there's going to be a set of them that we can't touch because of said appeal? And I don't know what they are. I don't know what, you know, Adam's opinion on that.
So I don't know if we need to talk with Adam. What do you
Madam Chair,
suggest?
At your suggestion, today I did reach out to Adam, and during office hours scheduled for the 24th, he is willing to either meet, if you want to post as a board to meet, or just with the chair, and have a discussion about that. You know, he did say, it basically mirrors what you both said, that while that is a decision of the court, once an appeal is filed, that is, it's just guidance to be looked at, but it's not dispositive. It doesn't govern because it's under appeal. So he saw it as two options. You know, one is status quo, be as we've been. The other is take the position that the town proper has taken the position that the water department is a department. We have a decision of the Superior Court that confirms that. While it's under appeal, that is the position of the town moving forward, that the department is the department and it is not a separate entity. If there's the ability for the parties, both boards, to get together with that as the base understanding, then he thought that that might be fruitful. If not, I think it goes to your point, Sue, more than yours perhaps, Wayne, which is if there's not at least that base understanding.
There has to be that base of understanding, and we have to conduct business. The water department has to work every day, and so do we, so I think...
I think my concern is that I'm not sure if everybody's not agreeing on that basic part of it, then isn't it
Well,
still going to be,
Let's have that discussion on the 24th with Adam.
okay,
and
we'll
move forward.
try. Lisa, I can't.
So go ahead with Adam for the 24th.
Yeah, let's schedule something, because he's coming out anyway, right?
Correct.
And I'd prefer that it be the full board, okay? So we can just talk that through. It's up to him whether or not that needs, if it's an appeal, I don't know if,
If it's appeal, it would be an executive session.
Yeah.
Litigation.
yeah,
Okay.
just in case there's other things that we need to be concerned with.
Yep.
Okay. All righty. 4.2, review comment, planning board mandatory referral regarding recreational marijuana bylaw. Yeah,
So I thought that was a very good meeting last night.
yes, it
I
was.
thought Ronnie did a good job presenting no means yes and yes means no. As everything is written, so I don't really have any comments on these. I've reviewed them
I have
at
none.
meetings. So
I have
I thank
none.
the planning board for the referral.
And I believe they're having a hearing on the bylaws.
The 29th.
Is it the 29th? Yeah, I knew it was a
Public
Monday.
hearing, April 29th, 2019, 7:30 Memorial Hall.
And if I could ask for one thing, it would be the flashing signs. They said there was an informational night, but they didn't say on what. And I think it really needs to say, if we're going to use it like that, it needs to say on marijuana. Because if you're just going by there, well, yeah, I don't know. But if you're just going by the sign and you're an old timer in town and you say, oh, I'm having an information night, you know, I'll just wait and go to town meeting.
Right.
All right, but people aren't all aware that there are two votes for the marijuana thing. One is the vote at the polls. Okay, so that's an important one, because that allows the town to say, of the 7 options for recreational marijuana, how do I want to prohibit or allow each one of those 7 in my town? And majority rules on each of those 7. And that then sets, when we go to town meeting, which bylaws we're going to take up in reference to those that are voted on. So it really is a 2-step thing, and I don't think a lot of people, how many, 25 or so?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But some
Were
good
there
questions.
last night.
And
Very good question.
But I still see the confusion of reading them in a polling booth and trying to make an informed decision about what you say. You didn't say.
And I thought.
Generally, you vote yes for something you want.
And I thought it was really good how both Ronnie and Chaz, when they were discussing it, they explained that what the planning board is doing is putting the decisions in the hands of the voters. There is none of us, the planning board, is saying how we would vote. That's our individual decision as well. But it's to say, all right, Townsend voted okay for recreational marijuana, but there's 7 different kinds. Do you want all of them? Do you only want this one or that one or whatever? Yes means no, okay, in the way that it's worded. But it's a very important responsibility for each voter. Because to tell you the truth, afterwards is not the time to complain about it. Okay, so it's real important,
Yep.
this election and town meeting are really important for that. 4.3, review, approve, and sign one-day special licenses. I'll just let you go through and do
Got
those.
3. First one is I move the board approve and sign one-day licenses for Paul Martin, VFW Post 65389, 491 Main Street, Townsend, for the following events. Number 1, April 27th, 2019, for sale hours 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. in conjunction with the celebration of life. Number 2, April 27th, with the sale hours from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. in conjunction with a 40th birthday party. And 3rd, May 11th, 2019, with sale hours from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. in conjunction with the celebration of life.
I'll second those 3. We can do those all together, right? Okay. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Wayne, I have these ones that were in the file over here
Okay.
as well, so.
Oh,
Well, I have 4.
those not
I have
gotten-
4 here, and we only read 3.
Right, these are the 3 here, so those might be.
Those,
old ones?
those must be ones that we didn't sign the last time.
Yes.
Oh, that's right, because remember, they weren't all typed up the last time.
Correct. Yeah, all right.
Something had changed on it. I saw them out there, but I didn't realize that's,
I just grabbed them and brought them in, and I'm not realizing what they were.
imagine how the baseball players feel.
Today?
No.
No.
Signing. One more. Take good care of them. .4 policies regarding code of conduct and social media. Jim, did you look through these?
I did, and I concur.
Jim and I had a conversation.
Is the first one the new one from Adam? Is that the latest?
No.
We need to do a little bit more digging on these.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that these ones are ripe yet for you.
No. They, actually, if I could just point everybody to the one that says the town of technology policy. That's
Weird
the
font.
closest, yeah, that's the closest to
encompassing everything.
Yeah,
That's what I thought too.
okay. So you might start with that one,
Yeah.
but the others, no,
I agree.
we're not there. That was easy.
Both of them, right?
I'm not ready for either one, are you?
No, not at all. It's a good start, but I have more questions for Adam I'd like to talk about.
Discussion, update, review, road management plan. Jim?
Yes, Madam Chair, we had a standalone meeting earlier this week that was recorded and should have been being run, I believe it's already up on YouTube, just discussing the plan moving forward. A couple of suggestions were made by members of the board, members of the Finance Committee that were in attendance. Nothing of substance, more stylistic things in presentation, ways to make the document a little bit more user-friendly for the layperson at town meeting. So changing some of the technical phrasing to something a little bit more average. The plan comes in at $5.1 million for the considered capital improvement project, the 3-year capital improvement project. The way the project would break out, if a debt exclusion were to pass at $5.1 million borrowed over 10 years at a 2.5% interest rate, to be conservative on the interest rate, would be on a home valued at $100,000 would be $15.07 a quarter. A home valued at $150,000 would be $22.61 a quarter. $200,000 home would be $30.15 a quarter, and a $250,000 home would be $37.68 per quarter. That's $5.1 million, 3 years capital road plan, and we'll have the plan at the library, town clerk's desk in hard copies, as well as online for people to be able to review.
Do you know when?
Are you going to put the one that we reviewed already, or?
I'm waiting for them to ship it back with the
Okay.
clean language.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
So I expect that should be tomorrow.
Okay.
The plan will show from any number of vantage points, depending on how you like to look at your information. There are tables that'll show the roads by year and by funding source. The debt exclusion portion, the $5.1 million divided out over 3 years, there's a specific work plan per year for that money. There's also the companion piece, which was the important thing that you wanted to emphasize to the voters, is that this isn't just an ask for $5.1 million in increased taxes for 10 years, but there is a dedication of revenue and resources being brought to bear each year for long-term maintenance. The way that plan is structured is going to be taking the form of a bylaw proposal at town meeting. It'll be a bylaw that commits the select board, the finance committee, and the town administrator each year to put forth funding for a pavement management plan. The pavement management plan would consist of all the Chapter 90 money that comes in from the state, which is the public roadway money that the state gives. It's roughly $420,000 this year. $250,000 in free cash, and each year over the first 5 years, increasing in increments of $50,000 until it hits the $250 mark, money from excise tax. So each year, year one being $50,000, year two, $100,000, $150,000, all the way to hit the $250,000. It ultimately will get us to just about the $1 million mark at the 5th year to have ongoing for annual upkeep and maintenance of the roads. And the reason that that's important is, again, just to show that this isn't just going to be, we'll fix them, we'll make them look pretty, and then neglect them again for another 20 years. There's a commitment being made to stand behind the good faith that the taxpayers are being asked to extend to you to get the project done. Obviously, the bylaw it can't compel the town meeting vote to do that every year in terms of funding, but it does commit the parties to put forth that funding proposal each year.
The only thing I'd stress, and this goes to the report, once you make it public, is, I know we don't have a color copier, but there is a color element, so I would
Absolutely.
definitely steer people to the website.
Yeah,
to
we will.
the real report.
For the hard copies that we'll have as reference copies, we will have them in color so people can see. And the reason, to those listening, either in the room or at home, the reason that's important is because if you don't like to look at your information in the data,
Worksheet,
across
yeah.
spreadsheets, there actually are graphical depictions of the town, our roadway infrastructure, and each year of the plan is coded by a different color. So you can look and say that in 2019, the color red, these roads are going to be handled in 2019 if this plan is approved. Even a finer point is put on it by, if the road is in red, which is 2019, and it is outlined in black, that is being funded from the debt exclusion project. If it's outlined in gray, that's also happening in 2019, but it's being funded with the pavement management local money, the annual allocation. So again, you'll be able to pull up and see the entire town and see where the work is proposed to be done. And it's spread throughout the entirety of the town.
And we're going to have the folks that put that road plan together, the consultants, are going to come in on the 23rd, is that correct?
Whichever of the next meetings that were confirmed. We have the 18th, which was or wasn't going to be, and then we have the 23rd. So they're booked for both.
Okay.
And whichever one we let them know, they'll be here.
Okay, excellent. And the discussion that we had about
OPM.
an engineer,
Yeah.
somebody that's representing us.
Did reach out to the town of Air. They actually had their engineer, they have a town engineer.
See?
So they had their town engineer do the oversight of the project. I know in Ashburnham, when they did a similar project, not nearly this scope, they did it with their highway superintendent, who is not a PE, but is a highway superintendent of a number of years. So we'll pull together a little bit more data on that. That was just, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Yes, it was yesterday, I know.
So it was just yesterday.
Yes, I
so,
know.
But we'll have a little bit more information. So for those following along at home, the question is, should we have somebody as an owner's project manager, a site
I just want an
supervisor?
engineer from our perspective that, and I mean, Jim, God bless him, he's doing a great job, but he doesn't have the engineering background, and we had talked about that when we hired him. I said, this is fine, this is good, and I think he's been great. He's been learning, he's been taking his classes, and he certainly seems enthusiastic about it. And this is a learning experience for him to be going through, too. But I really think it's important that we have an engineer that talks the lingo and makes sure that we're getting what we're paying for.
Sure. I know that Jim doesn't have his engineering degree. I have faith that Jim could actually do the oversight. Notwithstanding that, you're the board and you've given that direction, so that's where we're marching. And there may actually even be perhaps a way to marry the two, and having the engineer do the oversight in terms of, these are the roadways, this is the infrastructure underneath, this is what needs to occur, and then the actual on-site supervision is not at the engineer's pay rate, in order to try to maximize the dollars within the budget.
And like I said, it's a learning experience for Jim,
Sure.
too. So, I think that it benefits the town, it benefits him, it benefits the department. And I simply I don't want just a vendor,
Right, understood.
okay? Are you with me on
Oh, yeah.
that?
I
Okay.
agreed with you yesterday,
All right.
too.
All right, I can't remember yesterday. I can, too, but, okay. Thank you for that. And we do need to figure out which evening that they're going to be here, just because I've had people asking, when are we going to talk about the roads plan, too? Work session, town administrator updates, keep going.
Yep, you got a document here for you, Madam Chair, for each of you. And the printer flipped it on the opposite end, so it's
Oh,
weird.
that's all right.
So, just to follow along. Under personnel updates, human resource consultant, that's one of the bullet points under my report on the agenda. I've got a copy of the request for proposal right here. It's the one that I sent out to you folks last week. I hadn't heard any review or comment from either of you, so I'm prepared to ship it off to the Goods and Services Bulletin tomorrow to get it advertised, and we can put a a 15-day turnaround on it, and there are a handful of consultants in the Commonwealth that do this type of work, so we'll do a direct solicitation to them as well and email it to them directly.
Hang on. Okay, so that's the resource consultant.
Correct.
Okay.
I have no comment on it, that's why I didn't.
Yeah,
That was pretty standard.
yeah.
All right. And then B, Land Use Coordinator. As earlier detailed, we received 10 applicants for the position of Land Use Coordinator. I whittled the list down to 3 candidates based upon relevant experience. 1 candidate was our only internal candidate. I interviewed the 3 last week using a standard set of questions for each candidate with a numeric rating scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the better of the scores. I also took notes regarding each candidate's responses to the set questions, making particular note of the degree of preparation they had done in advance of the interview. A simple review of the numeric average of each of the candidates' scores showed as follows. For candidate 1, out of the 7 questions, the average came in at 4.6. Candidate 2 came in at 4.3. Candidate 3 came in at 4.6. Selection. Candidate 3 is the internal candidate and came in tied for the top score. Further in the text here, candidate 1 and 3 tied in the numeric rating, and I'm recommending that you appoint candidate 3, with the tiebreaker being a number 1. She is an internal candidate, and when the opportunity presents itself, we should provide upward advancement to our employees when they're qualified to take the higher position. In this case, candidate 3 is very well qualified, and number 2, even while working on our team over the past 2 years, candidate 3 has taken advantage of every training opportunity we have offered, and then some. On her own initiative, she's received her certifications from the Mass Association of Conservation Commissioners and a certified procurement officer. She's also done all this while concurrently completing her master's in business administration from Pittsburgh State, with an expected completion date of December of 2019. Even more impressive is her interest in enrolling in the combined Suffolk University MMA Public Administration program. Therefore, given all of the above reasons, I respectfully ask that you appoint Ms. Lindsay Butler to the position of Land Use Coordinator. And as an internal candidate pursuant to the policy, there would be a probationary period, at which point, if she did not meet probation, she would revert back to the position that she had held prior, which gets a little dicey because you
Yeah,
don't want
what
to
if
leave that
you're
position
filling it?
vacant.
Right.
Well, the person that's getting filled would have to have that understanding. The person that is taking the position would have to have that as an understanding.
She was number 3.
She was candidate number 3,
Are 1 or
correct?
2 interested in her position?
I believe that both would be, yes. 1 and 2 were both relatively green, and I don't mean that in a land use sense. They are well-papered, but not particularly well-experienced yet. So I think that this would be an opportunity for them to consider as well.
A growth opportunity. And what about when we did this before, or was it the other position? I'm thinking of the boards that
Yep.
she works with, that this person is going to work with.
Right?
Have you sent resumes out, had them meet her?
At the last discussion we had on this, the way it was set was I would make a recommendation to you, and then the boards would have the opportunity to meet with the candidate and, you know, kick the tires and check under the hood. Given the fact that everybody is going to have already worked with Lindsay, given that she's been in the land use office now for the full 2 years that she's been here, while she is focused on conservation, because that's her specific position, in the absence of the land use coordinator, she's also multitasked and done things in planning, in zoning, and in fact, she's I don't know if she was intentionally doing this to try to win a point or two, but she's begun studying the housing plan and is interested in working on the housing issue that she knows is coming up and very important with the Housing Authority.
Okay, so just as long as they all have a chance to give a blessing,
Sure.
or, you know? So would you like a vote?
I'd love a vote.
I move the board appoint Miss Lindsay Butler to the position of Land Use Coordinator contingent upon probationary period.
Promotional probationary period.
Promotional probation, is that a different time period?
I'd have to look back at the policy.
Okay.
It's actually, it's one that we haven't used since I've been here, so.
Okay. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. We then go to financial updates, fiscal '20 budget. My report just says I'll present a verbal update consistent with our most recent discussions. So you basically each got a copy tonight of the most recent version of the town
Getting
meeting
heavier.
budget book. I've restructured it a little bit such that the very first thing you're going to get when you open it up is the voter's guide to town meeting. It seems silly to have that tucked in the back of the book, which is where
Yeah.
it was last time. So you've got the voter's guide to town meeting. You then get glossary of terms. Then we get into the warrants.
This is what you worked on with the moderator?
Yes, yes, that incorporates all of John's comments. You then get into the warrants, the special town meeting, the annual town meeting. If you get to page 22 and 23, you'll see that's where the operating budget starts. The budget sits as it did the last time we spoke. There have been no changes. All of the comments made by the Finance Committee and the Select Board have been incorporated each time we've met, so there have been no new suggestions made since our last meeting.
Okay, so we're going through the articles, and then we get to the
The budget.
article on the budget.
Yep, budget is Article 5.
And on,
Last year, you might remember that there was some frustration because there was the omnibus version, which is just the department with salary and expense, and then there was another document that was the full blown-out version of every line. This year, we've done away with that completely and erred, based on your recommendation, on the side of more information, and not only included the line item fully blown-out budget, but not as a separate handout that people have to toggle back and forth on, but put it right into the document, so it follows the actual motion.
So the only other separate document would be the Finance Committee's page.
Their
of
recommendations, if you look on
Because I know it's
page
always
22 there, it says Selectmen and then Finance Committee. So there'll be a spot for Selectmen and Finance Committee at the end of each article to list whether the article was approved or not.
so for each one, as you're going through it, you're
Yep.
gonna know
Yep.
how Selectmen and
So again,
Finance voted.
That way people
So
won't
you don't
be,
have a separate piece of paper flying
we're trying to go
around.
back to the front cover and see
Right.
which
Okay,
one.
good, that's what I wanted.
I did hear you earlier on the zoning referral for marijuana, that as a board, you wouldn't be taking a position, but as individuals, you have the right to vote. So when we get to that section, I'd have to remove that, because I did include a spot for Selectmen, FinCom, and Planning Board.
I think you can just leave it blank.
Okay. Okay.
I don't intend on publicly saying how I feel about it.
Sure. A couple of other notes in the book. The only piece that is not yet filled in is going to be the piece for the Charter Review Committee. Once that report is in hand, there's a spot in the warrant for it. I'll dump it in, get it formatted to fit right, and then when we meet to do the votes with the Finance Committee, I can roll the votes in and the document will be finalized. Obviously, I want to get it out sooner than later, but I don't want to get it out incomplete.
I think
I-
that's due to be voted on this week.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
the back half of the document is where you'll see the budget message, and then you get into some of the documents that we used last year. They're a little less prominent. They're in the back of the book this year, and these are the charts and the tables. So if people do want to drill down into some of the revenue expense, that does appear as it did last year, but this time it's in the back end of the book. The one thing I'll draw your attention to is page 82 and 83. And this is new and will be going out electronically after the department head meeting today. I talked to the department heads and said that this will be coming out, and have them get it, particularly those that are elected boards and commissions, employees that work with and for elected boards and commissions, to make certain that they get this out, have it checked, make certain everybody's okay. This reflects what was done at the last meeting we had over a year ago, when we met with Water, Cemetery and Parks, Board of Health, I believe those are the only ones that came. And this is the one remaining piece that needs to appear in this book before we can submit it to the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, for their national designation. This is the one piece that we haven't had in that has stopped us from being able to submit. So take a run through that, mark it up, poke at it. If you don't like the stick figures, let me know. I'll change it.
Solid means direct, and
Solid is-
dotted means,
Policy. Yeah,
Policy.
right on the two little block descriptors up there in the corners. It says
oh,
solid administrative dotted policy.
suggestion?
Yeah.
You could actually put a solid line and then dotted,
Good idea.
just like a little
Little key.
legend.
Yep, gotcha. So, let me know about that, and whatever the changes are, we'll get them made so everybody's happy.
And can you point us to the article for the roads plan?
Yes. If you get to, it's a standalone article. So, let's see, the roads plan.
Oh, and you incorporated the capital plan stuff too, right?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you for that. The bylaw is Article 21, which is showing on page 60. And I've got to change the page numbers on the left-hand side, so they actually show on the left-hand corner instead of being buried in the staple.
Good.
So that's the bylaw. The actual article seeking the funding appears on page 57.
We fund it and then bylaw.
I'm sorry?
Fund it, then bylaw.
Yeah, yeah.
Just wanted to be clear.
Because even if the bylaw doesn't pass, we still want to fund it,
Yes.
because that's,
We don't, I guess my question is, we don't need the bylaw to fund it.
no.
No.
Okay.
Okay, and the roads plan, you're gonna make available on the
To be on the
website
website.
and
And then
in
two hard
key
copies.
offices?
Right, there'll be hard copies, reference copies at the library and the clerk's office, obviously up here as well.
Okay. Are you planning on, or do you think it's a good idea to have anything for the roads plan for that night?
I think we're gonna try to have the
PowerPoint or whatever?
on the sides, in some fashion, with temporaries like this one, the maps. So they'll be up the entire night, so people can be looking at the maps as they'd like. I think trying to put the data tables up would get a little bit
No.
murky.
People are going to want to know, if they don't already, hopefully they're going to come prepared and having looked at it, but they're going to ask questions about, what about this road? What about that road? So one thing is having the visual of the map, but I'm also thinking just like a summary of that.
I didn't understand that.
But you're
During
gonna
the
do a
article, there will be a
presentation.
presentation. Oh, absolutely. No.
Okay, all right.
Instead of doing it with a PDF like I wrestled with the other day with you guys, it'll
Yeah.
be a PowerPoint, so.
Good.
There'll be a good crisp copy of it.
Excellent.
The,
Looking good.
Yep.
And then we're gonna try to solidify this thing so that we can get it all printed up ahead of
Yep.
time and
Yep,
none of that last minute stuff, right?
yeah, the charter piece is the one that's probably gonna, I think the 23rd is the target, right? Mm-hmm. So if I see that the evening of the 23rd, I'll be here and I'll roll it in and we can get it finalized that night.
Okay. And that gives us a good amount of time to make sure we've got all duplicated and everything.
Yep. So I then had the pavement management plan, which I already discussed in my written report, but we already discussed it on the earlier part of the agenda. The other thing I just wanted to touch base on is, I mentioned the idea of doing what I had been calling a mock town meeting, which really, I think it got legs in a way that I didn't really intend it to. People were thinking that we were actually going to set up the stage and we're going to all put on our Sunday best and go through the town meeting as though it was a mock
I didn't
drill.
think that.
Well, I've had people say that. So, what it was always intended to be is much more of a casual, the moderator, me, council, if that was going to be able to be worked out, member of the board or two, if you wanted to post or not, and just go through the warrant and just open to the public if people wanted to be in the audience and ask a question, but more importantly, even just having it taped and run ad nauseum the week before, so people at their convenience can flick the channel on and go through and watch, paint dry and listen to us explain each of these articles. But in my experience in another community doing it, you're able to prep people enough that they can, ask their questions in advance of the meeting, or go do research in advance that they otherwise wouldn't have had the chance to research if they're hearing it on the fly.
I think that's a big part of it,
Sure.
is, when you hear something, you often have questions about it, but, here you are on town floor and you're being asked in 2 minutes to vote on it.
Right.
To give people a preview is a good thing. I think that's good communication, so.
So the date for that, the only date that worked for Moderator Barrett and council was the 24th, which is a Wednesday, I believe. And I know Wednesdays are difficult generally, Wayne, right?
Yep. I don't think we need to post,
Well, the 22nd is the election.
that's true, I forgot.
Right.
I think we should post.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay? Okay.
Lovely. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Okay.
And we were going to talk about schedules,
Yes.
please. Because I'm confused about what we're having when.
Well, we've been changing them so
It's,
much.
I know. When can't you be at a meeting?
I'm using my phone right now.
I'm gonna grab
Yes,
mine. I'm gonna
use
grab
your
mine, too.
phone. I like that, it's working.
What weeks are we talking?
Well, next week,
Next
we
week,
have
we-
meetings the 18th.
The 18th, so.
You
I'm
already
fine.
have
I'm-
those down.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, you have an executive session.
Yep, I'm fine with that. The 23rd, I can,
Hold on, before you leave the 18th. We're starting at 6, is that correct? Because that's usually, Thursday's usually charter too, and Carolyn and I usually try to go to charter. If we could make that start at 5, would that work for
Yeah.
you?
I can do that.
Okay?
But we do still have the 10:30.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, okay, but if we start at 5, and we can get, I'm not sure, I don't think we're gonna be able to do cable, because Kate made other arrangements,
Right.
okay?
But we should be able to do the votes on the warrant articles.
Yes, the
And
votes
then
on the warrant
that-
articles, the, anything from here? There was something else. I'm gonna look at my phone now.
TA evaluation, we can get that on.
That's
We can get
right.
that done.
Yes. Press home to open, thank you.
And we also had said project pavement management, we're moving that to the 23rd.
Okay, so how do I get this so that it shows like a calendar? Thank you. And we're saying the 18th, right? Could have sworn there was something else there. No, I just have Board of Selectmen.
Would you like the benefit of the pavement management presentation that night? Because that'll be a little more time for it to be out and about on the street.
On the 18th instead of the 23rd?
Carolyn had sent out a note, and I had just, I was not able to look through it.
Because they're prepared for either night.
How much do we
Okay.
have on the 18th?
She was asking about cable.
We
We
have enough
can't
time.
do cable on the 18th.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's fine.
What are you asking about for the 18th?
There's enough time between 5 and 7 to, to do TA evaluation, pavement, and
Then
votes.
where was that money go?
Yeah,
Okay, let's do it that then.
yeah. I mean, you could start even earlier if you want.
Let's not get
That'd be
crazy.
fine.
Let's not get crazy.
Well,
I have a job too, you know.
I'm just asking. We like to get out early sometimes, okay? All right, so that's fine.
And then the 23rd, still?
And the 23rd,
23rd, we have to post the warrant.
Yeah.
So
Um,
beyond anything else, it's just meeting to post. So it just needs to be
I
up
could have sworn there was
before,
something else.
it just needs to be up before midnight. So my hope is
Yeah,
that.
remember that from last
My
year.
hope is that the Charter Review Commission does finalize that night, and I can
Oh.
get it rolled in.
We were trying to get an executive session to talk about the SRO stuff, too.
Yeah.
We could do
I
it
did-
that night.
I did get confirmation that Brad is available on the 24th or the 23rd.
23rd.
Both, yeah.
Well, 23rd would be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we can do that on the 23rd.
Yeah.
Sign the warrant. And that afternoon, potentially meet with Adam as well to talk about the water stuff.
Adam's the 24th, I believe.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was the 23rd. Okay. All righty.
Got it.
Okay.
Phone down.
One last thing I forgot, I wanted to just mention for Wayne. Jim Smith did reach back out to Mass Highway on the issue of the crossing at Sterilite.
Yes.
He sent pictures of the solar crossing lights that were installed down
Yep.
across the high school and said that that's really what we're looking for. So once we get the first pushback on that, I'll make certain to keep you in the loop on it.
Okay, good, because that's a huge
What's he,
safety.
who's he working with on that? DOT?
Yeah, our district director for Mass Highway.
Oh, nice. I thought that was one of the things that we talked about for, to send to Senator
Well,
Tron
we did,
as well.
we did put a push out and we got those signs, which are
They're not they're,
What signs?
they put
bright-
up a,
bright greeny, yellow,
yeah, it
people
does,
walking, crossing signs.
it's not the flashing light to
Oh,
signal, and the lighting in that area is not the greatest, so.
yeah.
Like the ones in Groton, I know when you enter the sidewalk, the lights go on and flash, which is what I expect because that's outside of the high school, that's the biggest crossing.
But I mean, he was looking for something to ask for money for, right? In case we needed something?
No, this was Mass Highway's budget. They're doing it in other places
Oh,
along
okay.
state roadways. Why not
Yeah,
here?
there are at
Other
least
towns have it.
20 in Groton alone, new ones, so,
Oh, jealous are you?
yeah. I am. What about us?
I know, how about us? Yes. All right, so you could maybe work on clearing that one up.
Yep.
Thanks.
Once we get a response.
I would like to put something on a future agenda. I happen to remember that we did have, and maybe still do have, a DPW study committee. I don't think we ever got a final report.
No, it came to a pretty much of a screeching halt.
Okay, so
Nothing more was done with it.
can we just put on a future agenda to just disband the group officially?
Just ask, yeah, even just ask if they have an interest in making a final report, or if they'd like to be disbanded.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we didn't get a report, I'm assuming there was nothing conclusive, so I just don't want to have a committee
Yep.
hanging out there, because that's kind of how Properties was working too, you know?
Gotcha.
Okay, I have no announcements, updates, or reports.
I don't either, and the next one, I don't have any either.
Okay, correspondence, we did have a correspondence from one of the folks that is trying to get the unregistered motor vehicles off of their property and having a difficult time with it because one of them they don't have a title for, and apparently people who dispose of things like that, people who dispose of those things usually require a title when they pick up a car.
And I did speak with Chief Bailey before he left yesterday, and he went back out one more time before he left, and he believes that they are in compliance right now. There's one unregistered motor vehicle that they have. It is more than 75 feet from the property lines and from the roadway. The other vehicles are gone. They've been removed.
Yes.
So they are in compliance. What the family are looking for, and what was conveyed in their memo to you, was they were looking for your consideration to not have the fines hit, to waive the fines. I had a conversation with one of the renters. She said that, you know, they had been trying, that it's difficult without the VIN number, without the titles to be able to get rid of the vehicles. I said, had they reached out before the 30-day grace that you had given them had expired to show that they were still trying, it would probably be easier to extend some additional grace, but it's harder when it looked like they were thumbing their nose. She wanted me to convey to you that they were not thumbing their nose at the town. They were working to try to get it taken care of. They do now have it taken care of, and they're hoping that you would vote to not impose the fines because they're in compliance.
I'm fine with that.
I
understand these things take time, and
I'm trying to be in the place of the people who issued the complaint, and as long as it's to their satisfaction, and it sounds like it would be.
Yeah, their objective was not to
Their
be
objective.
punitive.
No, they
across
just
the
wanted
street.
it done.
Economically, they just wanted it taken care of.
They wanted it done. And in fairness too, that, you know, a good part of this went on during the winter,
Sure.
when it is difficult to be doing stuff like that. But I'm glad that they did it. And just I don't have a problem waiving it, and it's our right to waive it.
yeah, I move the board waive the
Imposition of the penalty.
imposition of the penalties for
That person.
89 Wallace Hill Road.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for getting it done. But people, take notice, please, because we now have a process, and it'll be a lot easier to levy fines if somebody complains. And it is one of our bylaws, and I'm pretty adamant about following the law. It's people's rights to have the law enforced, so. And thanks to the police department for helping out with that, too. I'm all set.
We don't have any warrants, do we?
There are, yes, they're on my desk, actually.
Okay, I move the board sign the warrants out of session.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move we adjourn at 7:10. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gee, I'll second that. All those in
Aye.
favor?